Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the annual Vice Admiral William P. Lawrence Ethics Award Dinner. This is a night we celebrate annually to celebrate the moral mission of the Naval Academy. We're all honored by your presence. My name is Joe Thomas. I have the distinct pleasure and privilege of serving as the director of the Stockdale Center for Ethical Leadership. Your presence this evening is a testament to the Academy's commitment to developing and graduating leaders who make courageous ethical decisions. This is an evening to celebrate, to fellowship, to renew our commitment to lead with honor, courage, and commitment. It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce the 65th Superintendent of the United States Naval Academy, Vice Admiral Yvette Davids. A few words on Admiral Davids as she comes to the podium. Admiral Davids, come on up, ma'am. Come on up. I can see you while I'm talking. Don't need you to moonwalk back out of it. Admiral Davids has a long, distinguished career as a surface warfare officer, commanding the USS Kurtz, the USS Bunker Hill, the Nimitz Strike Group, Carrier Group 11, and was most recently the acting commander, Naval Surface Forces and Naval Surface Forces U.S. Pacific Fleet. She's a pioneer and has a number of firsts in her career, from being the first Hispanic woman to command a warship in the U.S. Navy through the first woman to serve as superintendent of the United States Naval Academy. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce Vice Admiral Yvette Davids.
Thank you all, and I won't take too many minutes here, but I just wanted to take a small moment to say thank you for joining us tonight. This is exceptionally important when you think about how many wonderful midshipmen are here looking at you, these wonderful senior leaders in the room, and really aspiring to be you. And so on behalf of the midshipmen, I just want to say thank you for recognizing them. Thank you for recognizing what's special about each one of them. And when we talk about ethics and the moral value here, we all know that once you hit the fleet, there is something that really defines the United States Naval Academy, and that is the ethical character of every graduate from this beautiful institution. And those midshipmen, which you are acknowledging today, certainly far surpass anything that we can imagine. They're going to do incredible things out there for our nation and, quite frankly, for us. And so for the midshipmen in the house, please join me in a round of applause for all these wonderful, wonderful leaders, professors, mentors, and exceptional folks here who want to recognize you and want to inspire you to inspire others. What you have attained by this recognition is extremely important. It's going to stay with you for the rest of your lives. It may change the direction of your life, and you have no idea why. And that is because you will always be expected to live up to what we feel about you. And that is weighty, and that's a full responsibility, but it's important you know that we know that you can handle that, and you're going to do it superbly. So, midshipmen, please join me in a round of applause for all these wonderful people. So, Dr. Thomas, thank you so much for leading the charge on this incredible group here. I thank you for the opportunity just to acknowledge how important tonight is and how important we pause and take a moment to understand the magnitude of this one portion of what makes an incredible midshipman. So for everyone there tonight, thank you again for joining us, and Dr. Thomas, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Thank you, Admiral Davids. Now, before we eat, I'd like to thank the superintendent's protocol staff. This is one event of many throughout the day. And Ann McConnell, Director of Protocol. I think I saw Mallory Larson out there, Deputy Director of Protocol. Laura Livingston was definitely out there, Protocol Specialist. This is, quite frankly, the hardest working team at the Naval Academy, especially this time of year. Their weekend starts typically on a Wednesday, and especially if it's a home football game weekend, and they run in a dead sprint through Sunday. So if you could join me in a round of applause for the Protocol team. They're an impressive team of professionals. And honestly, this event wouldn't happen either if it weren't for a whole lot of hard work from Ms. Karin Ornberg, the Stockdale Center's events director, and honestly, the one who keeps all the trains on the track within the Stockdale Center. We call her our Director of First Impressions in the center. She and Ms. Sarah White, who she's sitting with in the corner there, who is our financial manager for the center, she makes sure all the payments are made for everything that goes on here this evening. And please join me in a round of applause for those two very special leaders. And with that, I'd like to now invite the center's own Chaplain Lauren Crone to the mic to say a blessing for the dinner.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. And before I pray, I just want to say thank you for inviting me. This is the fourth time that I've had the distinct privilege to pray at this dinner. I shouldn't probably have to say that. Most of you have memorized my prayers, I'm sure. While I usually try to say something lighthearted, since this is the last time I'll get to pray for this dinner, I just want to say something kind of heartfelt and give my sincerest gratitude really to everybody in this room who makes this happen every day, especially to the instructors and to the faculty who work day in and day out to do the work that we do here to change the hearts and the minds of folks. My family's headed to Forward Deployed Forces Japan here in the next couple months, and I feel more safe and secure by what you do here each and every day, and I'm more confident in our nation's success and our military success. So thank you for being extraordinary professionals and for working as hard as you do at doing something so good. Now, if it's your custom or tradition, I invite you to pray with me. Almighty God, we thank you tonight for this opportunity to gather and to recognize those who pursue righteousness. We give thanks that when you laid the first earth's foundations, you put truth in the heart of those you made in your image. Thank you to every person in this room who helps to train the hearts and the minds of these young people of this institution to honor that image above their own. Thank you to the midshipmen who aspire each and every day to pursue this same righteousness. I pray for a fresh perspective and for wisdom for the challenges of our times. Help us all to build the leaders that we need to secure liberty and happiness. Lord, please continue to help us be a beacon to the nation. I give thanks for the food and the fellowship that we have before us, and I ask your Lord for your sovereign blessing to be on this night, on our United States Naval Academy, on all the service members, especially those serving around the world, on our leaders, and on our beloved United States of America. In your most holy name I pray, amen.
It must be said that Lauren, after 4 years, he's going to leave some really big shoes to fill. He's done a phenomenal job here across the span of 4 years. We had a gap of about 10 years in the Stockdale Center from having a chaplain's perspective in the weekly ethics conversations and the research program and the various programs that are put on by the center. And Lauren has filled that exceptionally well, and we're all pretty confident he's going to go off and do great things from Japan. So thanks, Lauren. Now, with that, we're going to serve dinner. Please enjoy dinner. I'll be back to the podium in a little bit after we eat, and I'll begin the program from there. Thank you. Before I introduce our guest speaker, who will begin momentarily, and by the way, please continue to eat. And I don't know if you looked at the menu, but vanilla bourbon cake for dessert tonight. Do not skip the vanilla bourbon cake. All right, that's a pro tip here for somebody that uses the club system often. Yeah, don't skip that. All right. Before I ask General Wissler to come up, though, there are some folks here that deserve a real special recognition, a special shout-out. And I'll begin that with a great class of 1981 who makes this dinner possible. This dinner is called the Vice Admiral William P. Lawrence Dinner for a reason. Admiral Lawrence, of course, was a 49th Superintendent, and having served from 1978 to 1981, he is the class of 1981's soup. So it was a fairly easy decision talking to all those from that great class on how to decide what to call this and their sponsorship, their very generous sponsorship over these many years. has been instrumental to making this happen, and it is a double honor that we can do something in the name of Vice Admiral William P. Lawrence. So on that point, if I can ask everybody from the class of 1981, please to be rise and recognized again with a round of applause. Great, thank you. I'd be remiss also if I didn't recognize another phenomenal class here, a very generous class to the Naval Academy generally, but specifically to the Stockdale Center over many years in all things leadership, and that's the great class of 1958. The class of 58 established the Admiral Charles R. Larson Ethical Leadership Excellence Award, which will be presented a little bit later on this evening. It's very fitting in a lot of different ways to honor Admiral Larson in this way. His focus on emphasizing leadership excellence characterizes his legacy here, and he's the only superintendent to serve twice in this role as the 51st and the 55th superintendent of the United States Naval Academy. Now, 58 is represented here this evening by their class president, Lieutenant Colonel Gordo Gerson, and his wife, Jane. Sir, ma'am. I'd also like to recognize the family of Dr. Carl Montour. They're represented here this evening by Gary and Tammy Ramos and their son Ryan. There'll be more on the legacy of Dr. Montour here in a little bit when we give the awards that are named for him. But it does bear stating that, like Admiral Larson, like so many others, Admiral Lawrence, that we recognize that these things are named for, Carl Montour looms large over Luce Hall. He had such an imprint, such a legacy in leadership development at the United States Naval Academy that it's just a tremendous honor to do something in his name, and for that we're really, really grateful to you for that. Now, there's a few other special guests this evening I'd like to recognize. Representing the family of Admiral Larson this evening is Captain Wes Huey, son-in-law of Admiral and Mrs. Sally Larson. Captain Huey. Wes has a special connection because not only a retired captain, he was a permanent military professor here and former LEAD division director. So he's got a very close tie and was a tremendous colleague during those years. And before anybody judges Mrs. Larson, Sally Larson, for not making the dinner tonight, this is something that will warm every SWO's heart in this room. I pretty much guarantee it. She, this evening, is on the USS Gerald R. Ford for the christening of a great-grandniece. So they've got a pretty cool reason. Yeah, great-granddaughter. That's an amazing place to be. That's an amazing. Wes is representing the family. The bulk of the family is down there celebrating that, doing God like quite literally. That's fantastic. There's also a number of folks here from the Naval Academy senior leadership team that I'd like to call out. Our 90th Commandant, Captain Walt Ullman, and his wife Teresa. Provost. Very good. Sir. Our Provost, Dr. Samara Firebaugh, is here in the audience. Chief of Staff, Captain Jim Goat Bates, and his wife Jen are here this evening. Sir, thanks for coming. Command Master Chief, Mike Carbone. Who is, I might mention, a former recipient of the Larson Award from a few years ago. So good to have you back, Master Chief. Dean of Admissions, Bruce Lotta, and his wife, Debbie. Dean Lotta. Awesome. Chief Engagement, Retention, and Equal Opportunity Officer, Captain Jaja Marshall. Thanks for being here. And Command Chaplain, Captain Maurice Buford, is with us this evening as well. Mo. Nice. Now, in a room filled with VIPs and special guests, I'd like to particularly recognize a couple in the room, the Honorable Jim Byrne, former Undersecretary of the VA, and his wife Becky. Vice Admiral John Christensen and his wife Teresa. Thanks for being here tonight. Rear Admiral Peg Klein and her husband Frank. Let's get double shout-outs. Class of 81, right? It's like a bonus for you. And Rear Admiral Paul Becker is with us this evening, class of 1983. So, if you have not been recognized tonight, and you're still sitting here, fear not, the night's young. There will be far more recognitions as the night goes on. Now, on the topic of VVIPs, our own very favorite VVIP in the Stockdale Center is Lieutenant General John Wissler, Distinguished Chair of Leadership. And before I ask him to come up here, I just want to say a few things about him. After graduating here in 1978, he selected Marine Corps, which really wasn't a choice. He's from a Marine Corps family. He goes into the Marine Corps, he becomes a combat engineer, and he commanded essentially at every level possible. Platoon, company, battalion, Marine Logistics Group, Marine Expeditionary Force, Marine Forces Japan, and Fleet Marine Forces Atlantic. He's been the senior military assistant to the Deputy Secretary of Defense, Marine Corps aide to the President of the United States, and Deputy Commandant of the Marine Corps for Programs and Resources. Handled all the money for the Marine Corps in that final role. In fact, I told General Wissler earlier, in kind of going back, reminiscing a little bit, I looked at the events from 2011. We still keep it on our YouTube channel. And a then active duty Lieutenant General Wissler was delivering some remarks and wowing the audience, as he always does. And for that reason, we've been so very proud, so very grateful to have him here back on the Academy, specifically in the Stockdale Center as our Distinguished Leadership Chair for these past 5 years or so, plus. For those who do know General Wissler, he's an extremely passionate professional, particularly when it comes to working with midshipmen, whether it be in, as he refers to it, his kneecap-to-kneecap sessions in his office, that kind of face-to-face conversations with mids, some of whom are struggling, some of whom are in very senior leadership roles. On any given day, you can see a line of them outside his office looking for his wise counsel and mentorship. And he's just as comfortable, perhaps even more comfortable in that environment when he's speaking in Mahan Hall to hundreds of gathered midshipmen in those venues. He loves this work. He has loved this work for the past 5 years, I think I can safely say, on his behalf. It's been an honor to have him here. It's an honor to invite him back to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General John Wissler.
That money job has a 12-step program that goes with it when you leave it. And I'm on about step 10. And I've been retired for 7 years. Thanks. The good news is I think my remarks are going to be shorter than, because we do have, the real purpose of tonight is not about my remarks. It's about the midshipmen, it's about our honorees for these two great awards. Thanks to everybody who's representing the families. You know, I don't get a chance very often where I start my day with our awesome soup, and I finish the day with the awesome soup, and this has really been one of those special days. And both of them were focused on midshipmen, so that's really the pleasure. I'd be lying if I said I don't enjoy this. I do. Here's the really cool thing. I'm in my 7th year, not 5, but I've been telling Joe it's only been 5 because I think he's gonna fire me. I guess maybe the harder thing to understand is that all of those amazing people from the class of 81 stood up, and you were all my plebes, and despite my horrible leadership, you all turned out pretty well. And I was a rugby player on top of that. And guess what? We were not the kind of rugby players that are at the Naval Academy now. I mean, they're really amazing folks. And I guess the only person, Dr. Thomas, he hit everybody else I was going to say hello to, although I was going to say Dean Klein, because I just thought that was cool. But Rear Admiral works equally as good. But the last one is I just want to shout out to our quitter in the Stockdale Center, our Deputy Director, Jeff McCrease, who's leaving us in a lurch, which isn't true. I'm just making all this up. But our loss is definitely the Naval War College's gain, and we're going to miss you, Jeff. And I want to be able to say that publicly in front of all these folks. For the midshipmen, you have no idea what a deputy does. If you want to get a sense of it, go talk to the Chief of Staff. Here's the deal. The principal has a deputy. The deputy does everything the principal doesn't want to do. And the worst part about it is the deputy doesn't have a deputy. Haven't been a deputy. Anyway, so as I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about tonight, I hearkened back. I was out on the West Coast. I was doing a thing at the Marine Memorial Club. If you're not a member, you should join just because they got great reciprocal rights around the world. But it's a neat little hotel in San Francisco, and I was there with a bunch of really interesting people, and someone there had hired a number of Naval Academy graduates over time. And the question that they asked at this, fairly intimate dinner, probably 30 of us, if you will, he said, "What's the secret sauce about the Naval Academy? Because I get these Naval Academy graduates, and I want to know, what is the secret sauce? What do you do?" And my immediate answer to him was, "I don't know." I said, "But you know what? I'm going to go think about it." So I thought about it for a while, and I tried to put it into something. If you ever get an email from me, this is at the bottom of my email, but the secret sauce is this. I said, the Naval Academy grows and nurtures selfless servant warrior leaders of character that make a difference in the lives of the people they lead and the nation they serve. That's our secret sauce. So if that's the secret sauce, who nurtures and grows those people so that they get the secret sauce? And I would offer it's everybody on the yard. Everybody. It's our chaplains. It's our coaches and everybody in the NAAA. It's all the faculty. We have one of the most forward-leaning, leadership-focused provosts I've ever known. And Dr. Fireball, I can't thank you enough for that because it's making an obvious difference, and I want to say that. It's all the officer and enlisted leaders that follow the Don. We have two in the room here. And I'm just glad I was never the Don. That's all I got to say about that. Because I'm sure I wouldn't have made 3 stars if I had been. And then it's all driven by the soup. It's driven by the leader of leaders, if you will. It's a top-down thing, but it's also a bottom-up thing. And it's a peer-to-peer thing. And that's where that secret sauce gets applied. So the question is, are we successful at that? I mean, if that's the secret sauce, are we successful with the secret sauce? And I'd say we are. Why? Well, our award winners are one of those examples. Colonel McDonough, perfect example of what it means to have the secret sauce. And he's retired, but just barely, so I can just say Colonel McDonough, because he's still living that great period right after you retire when everything's possible. And Captain Bray, right? Just over there stroking on the lower level of the trireme, just every day. But who's the beneficiary? It's the midshipmen, right? They're the boat that gets propelled. And it's all of our first class and second class, all our Montour scholars, all of you. You're living proof that what I just said is a fact. You're all examples that we're succeeding. And the neat thing is when I read, I got all these neat little snippets and I read about each and every one of you, and all I can say is I'm glad I wasn't a midshipman while you guys are midshipmen, because I'd have been much farther down in my class standing. But the real neat thing is the diversity of where you are across the spectrum of the brigade of midshipmen and what your interests are and where you're at and what you're doing and how you're focused, and athletes and non-athletes and backgrounds and majors and all those things. It just doesn't matter. You're all focused on one thing, and that's being better leaders. And that's what this place does. Another example of are we succeeding are we just got 2 really amazing awards here most recently. The Carnegie Foundation gives out a Leadership for Public Purpose classification. They gave out 25 of those to all of the universities in the country, and the United States Naval Academy just got that. I think that means we're succeeding in developing selfless servant warrior leaders of character. We also got an Educating Character Initiative Institutional Impact Grant. Doesn't seem like much, but it's a good chunk of money that we can further invest in what we do for ethical development of those midshipmen. One of 29 universities that got that. So what is all that? All that is Leadership the USNA Way. If you've had a chance, you got to watch the video. It's awesome. But then I thought, well, okay, what is Leadership the USNA Way? And there's a million definitions of leadership, but when I sort of thought through it on my own, I used sort of my own. Leadership the USNA Way is leaders with the competence, compassion, and courage that enable them to inspire people to go to places they can't or won't go on their own. You see, that's Leadership the Naval Academy Way. And I kind of came to that because I look back over the course of Naval Academy history. I mean, think we got Albert Michelson, for crying out loud. We all know what he did, right? Measures the speed of light. Anybody realize he started doing that while he was a mid? I mean, that's scary. But the really neat thing about Albert Michelson is this. He left active duty. He went into the reserves. He spent a lot of time overseas. He was a gazillion honorary PhDs around the world. But what happened when World War I broke out? He left the reserves and came back on active duty. Selfless servant warrior leader of character. You got generals like General John A. LtGen, the father of leadership and leadership education in the Marine Corps. You got leaders like Fleet Admiral Bull Halsey, who I would offer turned defeat into victory in the Pacific. We don't use that title. There's a book called Defeat into Victory, and it's about Slim and his efforts to defeat the Japanese in Burma, 42 to 45. But I would tell you, we were on the precipice of defeat, and it was pure leadership, selfless servant warrior leadership that allowed us to get through that. Leaders like Colonel John Ripley, who gave a spine to a country when they needed it, when they could have crumbled under an attack, and they didn't because of his personal bravery. Here's one of my favorite ones, Dr. Matthew Wallace. Anybody in here know who Dr. Matthew Wallace is? Dr. Matthew Wallace designed, built, deployed, and employed the Mars rover. Not only that, he designed a helicopter to fly on another planet. Now, helicopters aren't even supposed to fly on our planet. And I can attest to that because I've crashed in them 3 times. And no flight pay, by the way, in case any of you aviators are curious. I'm still sort of furious about why you guys get that, but that's another story. Yeah, I mean, you talk about that idea of being unique and pushing on and pushing yourself beyond boundaries. You got great people like Major Megan McClung, an unfortunate first female Marine officer killed in Iraq. But nothing held her back. She was unafraid. And she led. She led in 3 ways. She led positionally down. She led her peers. She was motivated. I was in Iraq when she was killed, and she led the people that led her. Her example made everybody want to be better. It was leadership, the Naval Academy way. And then just leaders of firsts. Some were mentioned. Our superintendent, our commandant, not necessarily mentioned. But that's what leadership, the Naval Academy way is. It's being unafraid of being the first. It's unafraid of stepping in the breach. It's unafraid of being the first man in the stack. And yet that's what leadership, the Naval Academy way is all about. But it's not easy. It takes hard work, takes commitment. It made me think of my favorite President Roosevelt quote. He said, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who knows the greatness and the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. So to the midshipmen, you are the men and the women in the arena. Nobody in this room knows more about the critics than probably those two people over there and that gentleman sitting right there, our superintendent and our commandant. Because while everybody in this room appreciates what this institution does, there are many others who don't. And yet, like water on a duck's back, that rolls off because they see the purpose of staying in the arena, staying in the fight to make it happen. Who else? I would say it's our Leadership Excellence Council, led by Dr. Raber and Dr. McCrease, who pulled together that submission so that we would get the Carnegie Foundation Award. But it wasn't just them, it was an entire team. And it wasn't just an entire team pulling the data together, it was everybody at the Naval Academy who had laid that foundation so that we could get that award. Leadership, the Naval Academy way. It's folks like Rick Rubel, who started youngster character coaching. I would offer, if not one of the most beneficial things we've started here. And oh, by the way, he had other real things to do while he was making it happen. Just like everybody else in this room, just like Nick Hermberg, a company officer who got with Carol Gracer, who's with us tonight, and started coaching. Another unbelievably powerful tool, not just for the midshipmen, but also for our company officers and our senior enlisted leaders. It's you, the Montour Scholars. It's our varsity team captains. It's everybody who are the men and the women in the arena. It's all those midshipmen. It's the D&B that we saw practicing out there before we came in today, so that we have a really good time when we go to football games. And then there's a whole host of others. They're not in this room, and they may never get in this room. So you midshipmen should make sure they understand what goes on and went on in this room. But we're only getting started. In the near future, we're going to have a Leadership Institute. Leadership Institute is going to provide a single touch point for the superintendent to grow and nurture our ability to imbue everyone at the Naval Academy with leadership the Naval Academy way. That institute will help us to truly become that beacon of ethical leadership development in the nation and around the world. It's an institute that will give us the capacity to measure our success, not just think we're succeeding or hope we're succeeding. Hope is not a plan. If you come to my office, you'll see an example of that. It'll help us to build and improve the curriculum for better success, spread that success across the entire yard. We have an institution, the Naval Academy, but we will have an institute that will help the institution, that will be able to build, to improve upon, to develop, to distribute that secret sauce, and to allow each and every midshipman, staff, faculty, coach member to live Admiral Larson's dictum of being excellent without being arrogant. We can't lose ourselves thinking we're so good. We just need to go out and make ourselves better every day. So why is it critical? It's critical for this reason. Everybody who's wearing a uniform that's not a midshipman knows this. America gives those of us privileged to wear the uniform and has given everybody here at the Naval Academy a very precious gift. They've given them their sons and daughters and expected that they will make them better. And not only make them better, but take care of them. And for you midshipmen, when you get to the fleet, you're going to take responsibility for 20 or 30 or 40 people's lives. And that's a pretty big thing to take on. But you will be prepared because you will be leading the Naval Academy way. So my only ask tonight is this. My ask is, I want all the award winners to continue to display that idea of excellence without arrogance. I want everyone here tonight to stay in the arena, because there's going to be days for you midshipmen where you're not going to want to stay in the arena. But you need to stay there. And then finally, you got to commit yourself to make a difference in the lives of the people you lead and the nation you serve, because that's what this institution does. And if you walk out of here without that, you've got your Big Mac without the secret sauce. You're still going to get a nice diploma, but the only diploma that the nation expects from you says selfless servant, warrior, leader of character on it. And all the rest of it, while crucial to while you're here, won't be what you came here for, nor what the people expect when you hit the fleet or the Fleet Marine Force. God bless each and every one of you, and we all remain Semper Fidelis.
Said why I was grateful for having General Wissler, for, as he corrected me, not 5 years, but 7. 3. They called me out twice. I give all the lousy jobs to Jeff to do. I think now excuse making is never a good look, but here I go. I got off an airplane from Cartagena, Colombia this morning, and I know what my problem was. I had a cup of coffee in one hand as I was thinking about what to say tonight, and I ran out of fingers on my available hand. So I got to 5 years for General Wissler, and yeah, ran out of fingers, and sorry about that. 7 years. 7 years it is. All right. Thanks for the great words, sir. As always, spot on. Appreciate it, and certainly something for the mids to carry forward out of this evening and into their careers. Now, before we proceed to the awards portion of the night, I want to take a moment to emphasize that the accomplishments of these students would not be possible without the dedicated efforts of those who teach NE 203 Ethics and Moral Reasoning for the Naval Officer course and NL 310 Leadership Theory and Applications. If I could have all the NE 203 and NL 310 instructors stand so that we may thank you for a job well done. All of our instructors for those two courses. As General Wissler mentioned, this is pretty much always done on top of many, many other tasks and responsibilities, particularly NE 203. It's essentially a collateral. It's one of the most resource-intensive courses taught, if not the most resource-intensive courses taught at the Naval Academy. And what I mean by that is by design, it's team-taught by a PhD or terminal degree-bearing philosopher on the first day of the week, Monday, and then the next 2 sessions during that week taught by a senior officer, either active or retired. And for that reason, it's a massive impact. NL 310 is our flagship leadership course, also resource intensive in terms of the time that LEAD and the Leadership Ethics and Law Department spend on making that program, that curriculum, the best it could possibly be. And on those points, I'd like to publicly recognize the person who shepherds NE 203 curriculum, which is Dr. Mike Good, United States Navy retired. Mike is the NE 203 course director and distinguished military professor, DMP, as it's called, for ethics within the Department of Leadership, Ethics, and Law. Mike and his cadre of instructors work hard to bring the best teaching techniques and ethics content to the classroom, and I'll be inviting Mike up here in just a little bit to help hand out one of the awards. Now, in addition to NE 203, our midshipmen are required to take NL 310 in their second class year, Leadership Theory and Applications. This year, Lieutenant Commander Amanda Chase, a permanent military instructor who has led the way as the course director for NL 310. Amanda couldn't be here this evening. She's expecting her second child soon, and we thank her and her leadership of that course and all the curriculum, hard work she's put into that curriculum over time. And then finally, I'd like to ask all the parents and sponsor parents of midshipmen who are here tonight to please stand and be recognized. Now, we don't do this merely for the award that was handed out tonight, although that's the primary reason that you're here, of course. But the focal point and very purpose of this academy is the midshipmen. We're indebted to you for providing sons and daughters of character, talent, and a great sense of selfless service, something that's in short supply in this country today, I might add. So thank you so much for the product that you've delivered to us into our hands. Now, in the years past, midshipmen were recognized for the best essay paper in every NE 203 section. However, over the course of the last few years, at least, LEAD has transitioned from essay recognition within the NE 203 course to the Dr. Carl Montour Leadership Award for both NE 203 and NL 310. The Montour recipients are awarded annually as the top midshipmen in their respective courses. The awardees are selected by the faculty, and the criteria is based on consistent excellence in the leadership, ethics, and law curriculum with the top 1% of classroom performance. Other criteria included are the students' overall course involvement, as well as their leadership within the Brigade of Midshipmen. The awardees are approved by the Director, Leadership Education and Development Division, as outlined in a Commandant of Midshipmen instruction. We will honor our Montour scholars from NE 203 first, followed by the NL 310 awardees. A portion of each awardee's instructor's submission will be read, and we request each scholar to come forward for their appropriate award and photo op when they hear their name. If I could ask Admiral Davids, Captain Sager, Director of the Leadership Education Development Division, please to come forward, and Dr. Montour's family, if you would please, to assist in the award presentations. We're going to do it right here, Carm. Right here. Got flags in the background. We've got the photographer all queued up. All systems go. We're ready. We're ready. Now, after evaluating numerous submissions, all of them impressive, the selection committee chose the following 5 NE 203 Montour scholars for academic year 2024. Midshipman Second Class, Tristan Lee. Midshipman Lee was nominated by Captain Bob Brennan, and Captain Brennan writes, Midshipman Tristan Lee is a stellar student, overall carrying a 3.98 to date as a computer science major. In my NE 203 section, he quickly established himself as a philosophy scholar, earning an A grade early and carrying it through the semester, concluding with a near-perfect score in the final exam. More importantly, he was a significant contributor of ideas in my discussion sections as well as Professor Lingbyer's Monday lecture. Most importantly, he frequently asked profound and challenging questions, pushing me to carefully provide thoughtful responses. He has an insatiable appetite for learning and is very deserving of this recognition. Midshipman Second Class Tristan Lee. Well done. Midshipman Second Class Madeline Iverson. Midshipman Iverson was nominated by Captain Mike Norton and Dr. Larry Lengbyer. And they write, Maddie was the highest graded student in our section with some very stiff competition from several other outstanding students. She has straight A or A- grades for her entire time at the Naval Academy. More importantly, beyond mastering the basic material, she was able to grasp subtle points and so presented some sophisticated insights during class. She also was unfailingly good-natured, constructive, and humble in the classroom, a role model whom other midshipmen would do well to emulate. As a youngster, she actively sought out leadership roles in the Brigade of Midshipmen, last summer as a summer seminar detailer, and this year as a plebe summer squad leader, Midshipman Second Class, Madeline Iverson. Midshipman Second Class, Wyatt Satterley. Midshipman Satterley was nominated by Captain Bill Bray. Midshipman Satterley has gotten A's in all leadership courses. In fact, A's is in nearly every course. He has a 3.99 grade point average thus far. He was the most engaged student in the class, contributing to every discussion and demonstrating that he read and, more importantly, thought about the readings before each class. Midshipman Satterley was also careful not to dominate the discussion. He listened as well as he spoke. He is very deserving of this recognition. Midshipman Second Class, Wyatt Satterley. Midshipman Second Class, Jackson Smits. Midshipman Smits was nominated by Captain Brett Sturkin, who writes, I am pleased to nominate Midshipman Third Class Jackson Smits as a Montour Scholar. Jackson actively participates in class and shows strong maturity and thoughtful consideration in his comments. He is highly regarded by his classmates and has established a record of excellence and leadership while at the Naval Academy through his stellar academic performance and his highly visible contributions to the brigade. Sideline Captain, Navy Spirit, peer advisor, prono corporal, in-company calculus tutor, and many, many things, too numerous to mention here. He is truly a model midshipman who displays the virtues championed by the Naval Academy. He is most deserving of this award, Midshipman Second Class, Jackson Smits. Midshipman Second Class, Madison Stasiak. Midshipman Stasiak was nominated by Captain Rusty Yiser. Maddie was my #1 student for the fall semester, straight A's from 6 weeks to the final exam. Maddie was always completely prepared for our classroom discussions and was one of the few midshipmen who consistently took notes, both in my class discussions and in Monday lectures. Let that be a lesson to all midshipmen. Her contributions in the classroom reflected considerate deliberation about the assigned material, which encouraged her classmates to participate. Midshipman Second Class, Madison Stasiak. Thank you. And now we'll transition to the NL 310 Montour Scholars recognition. Midshipman First Class, Sidney Bear. Midshipman Bear was nominated by Lieutenant Colonel Colin Garetta. Midshipman Bear is an excellent student. She approaches leadership challenges with deep deliberation and applies the lessons of Loose Hall to her academy experiences with intention. Sydney humbly seeks outside perspectives to round out her thoughts after grappling with the leadership decision on her own, and she's highly coachable when seeking mentorship. These attributes facilitate her personal growth and development, and she has emerged ahead of her peers as a result. Sydney displays excellence not only in academics and in my class, but also as the captain of the women's swim team and as midshipman who has earned a superlative military order of merit. Midshipman First Class, Sidney Bear. Midshipman First Class, Cameron Colavito. Midshipman Colavito, she's done well since last I see. Was nominated by Captain Spencer Michelson. Midshipman Cameron Colavito was a leader in the classroom from the first day. She never hesitated to contribute to class discussion and did so in a way that encouraged more involvement from her peers. Intently focused and engaged, Midshipman Colavito set the example as well as demonstrated by her mastery of the subject material through her completed work and exams. She embodies the values this institution seeks to develop with its students and is very deserving of this award, Midshipman First Class, Cameron Colavito. Midshipman First Class, Thomas DeVito. Midshipman DeVito was nominated by Lieutenant Commander Joe Fondale. And Lieutenant Commander Fondale writes this: Midshipman Thomas DeVito brought an energy to class that elevated the level of discussion and increased the engagement of his classmates. As an attendee of the University of South Florida prior to the Naval Academy, Thomas leveraged his maturity and experience to present another perspective in class discussions. Thomas was very quick to advance classroom discussions by contributing historical evidence and anecdotal support to the lesson of the day. Thomas will have a positive impact on the brigade as a first-class midshipman and on the fleet as an officer. Midshipman First Class Thomas DeVito. Midshipman First Class Jonathan Sauer. Midshipman Sauer was also nominated by Lieutenant Colonel Colin Garretta. Midshipman Sauer is a deeply considerate leader who offers well-considered questions and opinions to fully probe the complexity of leadership. He has clearly earned the attention and respect of his classmates. As a scholar with exceptional performance on every assignment, the captain of the lightweight crew team, and a leader within the brigade, John embodies all that the Navy wants of its future leaders. His commitment to his own development, as well as that of his peers and his community, are exemplary and worthy of this award. Midshipman First Class Jonathan Sauer. Midshipman First Class Hava Sarafinsky. Midshipman Sarafinsky was nominated by Captain Spencer Michelson. Midshipman Hava Sarafinsky was an essential member of her NL 310 class. Through her contributions, she artfully brought the classroom discussion to a deeper level that enhanced everyone's understanding of the material. Midshipman Sarafinsky's frequently brought up unique viewpoints, which in turn encouraged more class participation. Don't be so much of a hurry here. We're honoring you. We're honoring you. Which in turn encouraged more participation from her peers. While these discussions were limited to the classroom, it is readily apparent from interacting with her that her primary focus is on the success and needs of those around her. Midshipman Sarafinsky is a strong leader, both inside and outside the classroom, and embodies the qualities we look to develop in our future officers. Midshipman First Class Hava Sarafinsky. Thanks, Admiral Davids and the Montour family for assisting. You may take your seats. If I can ask Captain Sager to remain in place. We will transition to the Rubel Award. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll now honor the incredible work that was already pointed out by General Wissler a little bit earlier, and that's the work of Captain William R. Rubel. The Captain William R. Rubel Award for Instructor Excellence is also known affectionately around here as the Ruby. This award is given annually to the top NE 203 instructor for each academic year. I'd like to invite Captain Rubel and Dr. Mike Good to come forward and join Captain Sager for the award of the coveted Ruby. If you would, please. And Dr. Good, I will turn the podium over to you.
Give you a quick rest, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I had a lot to say and brag about Rick real quick. He was the inaugural distinguished military professor for ethics. He started this job, and before he started this job, he was the division director over in engineering and weapons, and he volunteered as a military instructor as this ethics program is getting off the floor. So he's been in from the ground. He's built this thing. He's written countless case studies. He's written a book about his efforts doing remediation. He's started new programs throughout his years here, including the character coaching just a couple years ago. So this award is to honor him and the legacy that he leaves here at the Naval Academy. So the general gave away my awardee. I was trying to keep it in the bag and secret, but Captain Bill Bray, would you come forward, please? Hey, Bill. All right, so the recipient of the academic year 2024 Ethics Instructor of the Year is Captain Bill Bray, United States Navy retired. Captain Bray received tremendously good marks from his students for masterfully blending his professional expertise with the course material to achieve the priority and mission of the Naval Academy, to graduate leaders who have been developed mentally and morally. The superlatives his students used to describe their experience in his class speak for themselves. He was always ready to drive us forward and help us really understand the material, but was also willing to hit the brakes a little if we needed to take a moment and breathe with the material. He is very invested in our progression in this class, but also in the hall and with extracurriculars. Relating events to things that he experienced as a midshipman or officer made it much more real in my mind, not just a hypothetical case. And multiple students every semester mention the impact that memorizing their hometowns had on them. Clearly, the effort he has put forth to be effective in the classroom and the way in which he leverages his unique military experiences, connecting theory to practice, are not only examples to his peers, but also demonstrate his sincere desire to ensure his students enter the fleet prepared for moral leadership. The names of the recipients of this award are memorialized on a plaque hung in the second deck of Luce Hall. Congratulations, Bill, Rick, Flipper, thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll transition to the Larson Award. We'll conclude our evening, in fact, by presenting the Admiral Charles R. How am I doing on time, Provost? I'm doing okay? Obviously, the highlight of the night, the Admiral Charles R. Larson Ethical Leadership Excellence Award. The Naval Academy Class of 1958, as I mentioned before, really initiated this award, not only pays for this, but came up with the idea, hatched the idea, basically brought forward this idea a number of years ago to honor their classmate, Charles Chuck Larson, by establishing this very unique ethical leadership award at the Academy. Because it's not one for midshipmen, but for those who lead and influence those midshipmen. The Lawrence Ethical Leadership Excellence Award is named for Admiral Larson, who was an accomplished naval leader and had a distinguished 40-year naval career to include command of all military forces in the Pacific, service in the White House, and appointment as a superintendent of the Naval Academy on 2 occasions. The award is presented to the Naval Academy staff, faculty, athletic administrator, or coach who has contributed significantly to the Academy's mission to graduate ethical leaders for the Navy, Marine Corps, and nation by modeling through word and deed Admiral Larson's lifelong principles to uphold the standards, be a person of integrity, lead by example, strive for excellence without arrogance, and treat everyone with dignity and respect. A committee, as directed by Naval Academy instruction and appointed by the superintendent, reviews the nominees for the award and recommends a recipient back to the superintendent. The recipient receives a citation and check from the class of 1958, and his or her name is engraved on the permanent plaque in the Stockdale Center for Ethical Leadership and on a similar plaque that hangs in Farragut House, the residence of the superintendent. This year, we are presenting the Admiral Charles R. Larson Ethical Leadership Excellence Award to the 89th Commandant of Midshipmen, Colonel J.P. McDonough III. Got surgery. Keep forgetting that. Got hand surgery. I almost reached out and grabbed that hand with all the stitches. See. Would have been my final mistake of the night, I think, if I'd have done that. Holy smokes. Just a few words, too, on the selection of Colonel McDonough for this year. Colonel McDonough took the helm of the brigade during COVID-19 pandemic, and over the course of 3 years, he restored essential routines and implemented many new programs that effectively develop leaders of character. Those programs include the Midshipman Ethos, a set of aspirational principles developed by midshipmen for midshipmen. The Commissioning Vector Check program, which surveys a brigade of midshipmen with consistently last in company, those who find themselves in trouble in that way or ranked lower than they would hope for in that way in terms of their aptitude grades, and assigns them an aptitude mentor for the semester. Turned around a lot of lives in the process, careers and lives. A commandant's suggestion box. His transparency led to many candid and therefore productive conversations with midshipmen. Some things he maybe didn't want to hear, I suppose, and all that, on important developmental topics within the brigade, but he acted on them. So that characterized his time. Transparency characterized the time that JP had at the helm of the brigade. The Midshipman Preservation Program that provides a process to enable early notification of the chain of command when a midshipman is not doing well. It supports programmatic review and provides leadership continuity for the brigade. Something you brought forward from the fleet is your experience as a regimental commander, I understand. He implemented mini culture surveys for sports teams and companies, and these pulse checks caught several bad behaviors early that in turn improved dignity and respect. A Midshipman Wellness and Services Handbook, an intensive character evaluation or ICE program, and many, many other things came into being under the careful watch of Colonel McDonough. And it was under his watch that the Naval Academy graduated 3 classes, 2022, 2023, and 2024, not very common in the history of the Naval Academy. And graduated all ethical leaders in his estimation, sent them off to the fleet in good standing. He laid the foundation for the classes of 2025, 26, and 27. Now, from 2023 to 2024, the final year of Colonel McDonough's tenure, 8 of 9 protective factors on the Command Climate Survey improved. The presence of sexually harassing behaviors, a risk factor, dropped by 20%, unprecedented. Additionally, the 2024 graduate survey showed a 7% improvement on overall experience in the area of professionalism and character, his target areas. Colonel McDonough's 3 years of leadership as a Commandant of Midshipmen and his focus on character above all else unquestionably met the intent of Admiral Larson's leadership principles. A man with impeccable character and a distinguished record of accomplishments to enhance the development of midshipmen into ethical leaders of character, Colonel McDonough is exactly the type of leader for whom this award was envisioned. Colonel McDonough, would you like to take the podium? Briefly.
So I first of all just want to say thanks to Joe and the entire team over the last 3 years. To be honest, I come up with a lot of good ideas, and it was, let no crisis go to waste. And coming out of COVID, there was the opportunity to do a lot of amazing things, and none of that would have occurred without the amazing team. Starting with Dave Foreman, and who made a lot of things happen, but just truly an amazing team across the board, from the SLT all the way down to the midshipmen. Midshipman ethos, I may have been the kindling on that, but the midshipmen ran with that. And that's one of those things, I talk about what are we going to do to build leaders of character, and having something like that in front of you that I still have on my desk now, my longer hair and suit, it still applies, right? That idea of character above all else is something that is a motto we can all live by. So I just want to say thank you. As with any award, when people get awards, it's not about me, and this one 100% is about the amazing team at the Naval Academy. And I look forward, as an Annapolitan, seeing where it continues to go. The class of 25, they were my babies, so I'm look forward to seeing them finish strong. So thanks very much. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, JP. JP, stay up here if you would. Colonel McDonough, please come back up, because we're going to, sorry about it. I have to say, right, tailored suit, he's transitioned pretty well, huh? Stylish shoes here. Look at that guy. I expected a retired Marine to be wearing core frames with that, but he's actually, nicely done. All right, to assist me as I present the Larson Award, I'd like to also bring back to the podium the Superintendent, Vice Admiral Davids, Colonel Gordon Gerson. If you'd please join me, sir, President of the Class of 1958, to present this award. Sir. You got it. Okay. In closing, the mission of this institution is captured in bronze at several locations across the yard. Every year we pause briefly to celebrate accomplishments within one of the 3 pillars of that mission, the moral development of midshipmen. Thanks to all of you for attending and helping us celebrate this past year's achievements. Looking ahead, we in the Stockdale Center, our partners in the LEAD division and the dedicated staff and faculty from across the Naval Academy will look for more and more creative ways to positively impact the moral mission of this institution. In the coming year, a capital campaign, laser focused on building ethical leaders of character to serve the nation, the theme, in fact, of this coming capital campaign, will bring in additional resources to further our reputation as the country's premier institution to accomplish just that, building ethical leaders of character. And the timing of all this could not be more critical. While the external threats our country faces have never been greater, from near-peer competitors threatening stability in the Indo-Pacific, to malign non-state actors threatening us in cyberspace, to an internal climate of political and social divisiveness, America needs future generations of ethical leaders to ensure our nation continues to thrive as the last great hope for mankind. So congratulations to our award recipients and their families. Thanks again to all of you who made this evening possible, and good night and safe travels to all.